Well, good morning to each and every one of you. And I want to start in the book of Micah, or Malachi. Rather, in the book of Malachi, there's a lot of information that we can learn when you start reading through the book of Malachi. It's very interesting. And I want to start in the very first chapter, the very first verse. The burden of the word of the Lord to Israel by Malachi. I have loved you, saith the Lord. Yet ye say, wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother, saith the Lord? Yet I loved Jacob. I hated Esau and laid mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. Whereas Edom saith, we were impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places, saith the Lord of hosts. They shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord hath indignation forever. And your eyes shall see, and ye shall say, the Lord will be magnified from the border of Israel. A son honoreth his father, and a servant his master. If then I be a father, where is mine honor? And if I be a master, where is my fear? Saith the Lord of hosts unto you, O priests that despise my name, and ye say, wherein have we despised thy name? We have to make sure, I want to read a little bit more, but we have to make sure when we are serving God that we're following Him correctly, properly, and according to His will, not just what we want to do. Because if we just do as we want to do as humanity, then we're going to fall short. And just because we call something something doesn't make it true. We'll see in just a little bit. Ye offer polluted bread upon my altar, and ye say, wherein have we polluted thee? And in that ye say, the table of the Lord is contemptible. And ye offer the blind for sacrifice, is it not evil? It's asking a question there after it's stating. And ye offer the blind for sacrifice, is it not evil? And ye offer the lame and sick, is it not evil? Offer it now unto thy governor. Will he be pleased with thee or accept thy person? Saith the Lord of hosts. If you were to go to a governor, if you were to go to a senator, if you were to go to a president, if you were to go to a king, if you were to go to someone in authority, whoever that may be, and you bring them something that is not, and it's supposed to be a gift, or in this case, we're talking about a sacrifice. If you offer them something, you say, here's something, you give it to them, and it's broken, or it's just the least that you could possibly give, would they be happy with that? Well, no, they wouldn't. Not at all. The Lord is not going to accept just the least that you can do. As a matter of fact, He enables you to do your best. Now, your best. And when we look at people in the Old Testament, New Testament, either one, and people today as well, there's different levels of best. Now, what I'm able to do, what you're able to do, the different individuals are able to do may be different, but it would be our best. It doesn't mean that this talent is worse than that talent or better than that talent. It means that as we have talents, we use them properly. As we give sacrifice, we do the best that we can. God is not satisfied with us simply just saying, I'm going to kick back. I'm not going to really worry about serving God as I should. How would we feel if we go to God and God says, hey, I'm not going to help you today. I'm not going to help you understand the word. I'm not going to bless you. How do you feel when you have issues and you want God's help? Do you want Him to say, maybe tomorrow? You want His help. Well, what do you think He thinks when we are His people, when we are supposed to be serving Him, we're supposed to be an example, when we're supposed to be giving the best that we can give, and we give second best? Well, it's terrible in His sight. Verse 9, and now I pray you, beseech God, that He will be gracious unto us. This hath been by your means. Will He regard your persons? Saith the Lord of hosts. Who is there even among you that would shut the doors for naught? Neither do you kindle fire on mine altar for naught. I have no pleasure in you, saith the Lord of hosts, neither will I accept an offering at your hand. That is a bad place to be. That is a bad place to be. When we're in a situation where God is no longer accepting what we do, that is a terrible state. People will get in that state and they will say, well, I'm doing what God wants me to do, even though they're not. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do all these things that I think that God likes because it makes me feel good, but it's not acceptable unto God. It's not right in His sight. I'm going to go down and read a little bit more. Who is there even among you that would shut the door for naught? Verse 11. I'm going to go to there. For from the rising of the sun even unto the going down of the same, my name shall be great among the Gentiles, and in every place incense shall be offered unto my name, and a pure offering for my name shall be great among the heathen, saith the Lord of hosts. But ye have profaned it, in that ye say, the table of the Lord is polluted, and the fruit thereof, even his meat, is contemptible. Ye said also, behold, what weariness it is. And ye have snuffed it, saith the Lord of hosts, and brought that which is torn, and lame, and sick. Thus ye brought an offering. Should I accept this of your hand? That's the question. You bring these things to me. You bring the least that you could bring me. You bring the things that you would cull anyway from your flock. You bring me those things, and you expect me to accept those as a sacrifice? The king. You expect me to accept that? No, it's not acceptable, saith the Lord. But cursed be the deceiver which hath in his flock a male, and voweth and sacrifice unto the Lord a corrupt thing. For I am a great king, saith the Lord of hosts, and my name is dreadful among the heathen. Take the least that someone could take, because that's what that is. When someone brings in a sick or a lame, an injured in some way, and this what we're looking at here, this example, and brings it in as a sacrifice, they're bringing in the least that they have. They're keeping back what they wanted to from God. That is what happens when same thing. Now we look at this, I'm going to explain this in just a second. We look at this and we think these individuals, how awful these are. How awful these individuals are. They brought the least to God. How awful it would be to bring the worst sacrifice. You go out in your flock and you've got all this flock, you've got all these beautiful things that you can bring in, and you go find the one that has fell in a ditch and broke its leg and bring it in and give sacrifice. How awful that is. Why would we think God would accept that? That is the exact same correlation to us today if we just do our least for God. That's the same thing. That's the same thing. That's what was happening here. They were doing the least they could do. Being contemptible before God. If we are not doing our best, we got to bring our best. We do our best for God. We do the best that we can. We want to make sure that when God looks at us, He sees a people that is working just the best they can. And again, best, even then, what someone had to bring can be different than what another one could bring. Do you think if there was a poor man in the kingdom in David's kingdom at the time, and he has less flocks and to choose from, yet David could have multitudes to choose from, do you think it's any less acceptable to God if they bring their best? No, it's acceptable to God because they brought their best to God. Just like today, bring your best to serve God. It is not the wealth and the monetary value that matters. It's the willingness to serve God and bring our best to serve Him. Our best, to do our best. To not just again, it's like someone just laying back on the job and saying, I'm not going to really work today. Well, your supervisor wouldn't accept that. Neither is God going to accept when someone says, I'm just going to do haphazardly, in other words. God wants us to do our best. Matter of fact, and one of the things that we could look at to really bring our mind to the forefront of that thought process is in Galatians chapter 6 and verse 7. It says, Be not deceived, God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. God is not mocked. He sees all things. He knows all things. He knows when we're doing our best. Now, you might look at someone else and you say, that individual's really trying. But God can look at them and see if they really are. You may look at someone, I may look at someone and say, that person doesn't seem like they're trying very hard at all. God might look at that person and say, they're doing their best. God sees on the heart as man sees physically. God sees all. He knows how hard we're trying. He knows how hard and how much effort we put into serving Him. He wants us to do our best. He wants us to serve Him with diligence, to work greatly for Him. He won't accept if we put something else in front of Him. If you turn over with me in Leviticus, I want to look at a passage here. Leviticus is chapter 3 is where I'm going to turn to. In verse 6. And if his offering for a sacrifice of peace, offering of the Lord, be of the flock, male or female, he shall offer it without blemish. If he offer a lamb of his offering, then shall he offer it before the Lord. Notice it's without blemish. It's the best it's the best you have. Now think about this for a second. Think about the fact of bringing in a sacrifice that is without blemish. It's the best you have. Now, where did the offering come from to make the sacrifice? Where did that come from? It came from the Lord. He is providing what they needed, yet were they willing to do that? Just like today with us. He gives us opportunities to serve Him. He's the one giving said opportunity. Do we bring our best? Do we do our best? Do we absolutely do everything we can to serve God faithfully, to do things that are pleasing in His sight? Because we can do things simply to be pleasing to man. Would that be pleasing to God? Would that be pleasing in His eyes? Would that be something that He is willing to accept? Again, man can do all sorts of things that are not pleasing to God, but might be pleasing to Him, might be pleasing to you. In Matthew chapter 22, I want to turn there for just a second. It might be pleasing to you to just sit around. It might be pleasing to you to never speak about God's Word. Well, we can never be like that. We have to make sure God's Word is on our tongue. We have to make sure that we're speaking as He would have us to speak. In Matthew chapter 22, verse 36, Master, which is the great commandment in the law? Jesus said unto them, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. With everything we have. It's just like what I was looking at. I want to read a little more in just a second. It's just like what we were looking at just a moment ago, and how that we are to bring our best in sacrifice. We're to bring our best to serve God, not second. Now, verse 39, and the second is like unto it, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. Hey, that covers everything. Everything. That is everything. You know, a lot of times people will try to dissect things and they'll try to get around things. And that's what someone was doing when they brought in the lease that they had. They were trying to get around. They were trying to say, well, yeah, I'm going to sacrifice. Just like Saul. I'm going to sacrifice. Well, I did what you said. I went over there and fought against those individuals. I did what you said. No, you didn't, Saul. You didn't bring in the right kind of sacrifice. You didn't do the best that you could do. You would think, and as we should too, that if we think about our sacrifice toward God, that you would do more, not less, more. Saul went in utterly, went in and utterly destroyed the enemies of God. Shouldn't have brought back anything. Should have went in and said, oh, there's a grasshopper over there. Wait just a second. I'm going to go over and I'm going to crush that. God said utterly destroy everything. I'm going to destroy everything. I'm not going to leave anything. To go more, to do more, do everything that's pleasing to God. Not bring something back and say, well, I did it. Sort of. No, we don't do that. When God says to obey Him, when He says to do something, He says to serve Him, do the best you can. You're never going to err when you do the best. You're going to err when you do the least. Always serve God faithfully, and you're going to be pleasing to God. If you go over with me to 1 John, I want to turn there for just a second. 1 John chapter 5, verse 3. For this is the love of God, that we keep His commandments, and His commandments are not grievous. Are not grievous is the key there. There's a lot of people that will say keep God's commandments, but is His commandments grievous when someone says what to do for God? Because if they become grievous, then you're going to stop doing them. Oh, you may walk around and look the part, but you will not in heart, and you will not desire to do what God says. You will end up bringing the least of sacrifices. The least. That's what you'll end up doing. And there's a lot of individuals in this world, they look the part, but they are not being obedient to God. Again, God looks on man's heart. He knows if we find His commandments grievous. For if we do, then we better repent. We better, if we get in a state where we're looking at God's commandments and we say, I don't like that. Well, we have a problem. We have a serious problem that we need to correct before we fall, before we go down a path that will lead us into destruction, before we decide that, what else do I dislike? In Mark chapter 12, if you want to turn over with me and look at it in just a second, it's Mark chapter 12, verse 30. It says, "And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy mind, with all thy strength, and this is the first commandment." It's like what I read a second ago. Everything. I can't hold back anything. Nothing. And why would I want to? It belongs to God. This breath I have in my lungs that I speak before you, this capability, it belongs to God. He just seen fit that I could be blessed to be in this world, in this life, at this period in time, in this period in history, so I could serve Him. He blessed me with an opportunity to work for Him. We always have to keep that mindset of understanding that we're just blessed to work for Him. We're blessed to have an opportunity to help those, to work for God, to serve Him. It's just a blessing. It's such a blessing. It's Him being merciful. It's Him saying, I'm going to give this person an opportunity to work for me. I'm going to give this person an opportunity to do something. Easily. I could have not existed. Easily, you could have not existed. You think what it took. You think what it took to get from Adam and Eve to now to you, to each one of you. What did it take? How many generations did it take? And God knew from the beginning who was going to be. He knew from the beginning, and now you're here. What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with that time? What are you going to do with that blessing, those talents, that opportunities to serve Him? If you want to turn over with me in Amos, I'm going to go to chapter 5. In verse 6 beginning, "Seek the Lord, and ye shall live, lest he break out like fire in the house of Joseph, and devour it, and there be none to quench it in Bethel. Ye who turn judgment to woodworm, and leave off righteousness in the earth." Woodworm, you could look at that as a bitter thing. Ye who turn judgment to woodworm. Someone who turns evil, tries to say it's good, and we can look at other scriptures for that, or tries to turn good to evil. It perverts judgment. We have to watch to make sure that we're not doing that. How could we do that? I know when you think about this, you think about, well, I'm not a judge in the sense of a judge in a court. So how am I doing that? When you decide that you're not going to work for God properly, you're giving a judgment in that you're saying that I would not hold God's laws and commandments in high regard, but my own. And then you won't bring your best sacrifice. And again, we want to bring our best sacrifice. If you go down just a little bit in the same book, Amos chapter 5 and verse 21 beginning, I despise your feast days, and I will not smell in your solemn assemblies. Though ye offer me burnt offerings and your meat offerings, I will not accept them. Neither will I regard the peace offerings of your fat beast. Take thou away from me the noise of thy songs, for I will not hear the melody of thy viols. But let judgment run down as waters, and righteousness as a mighty stream. Have ye offered unto me sacrifice and offerings in the wilderness 40 years, O house of Israel? But ye have borne the tabernacle of Moloch and Chun, your images, the star of your God, which ye made to yourselves. Therefore I will cause you to go into captivity beyond Damascus, saith the Lord, whose name is thy God of hosts. We have to make sure that our offerings don't become despisable. Again, someone can come and they can do the simple steps. They can continue to act the part, or they can continue to do things that outwardly seem like they're serving God, but are they? Did God's laws become grievous? Are His commandments grievous? If they're grievous, there's the problem. God's laws shouldn't be grievous. We should be always a student learning from God. If we go to Hebrews chapter 13, in verse 15, by him, therefore, let us offer the sacrifice of praise to God continually. That is the fruit of our lips, giving thanks to His name. Continually praising God. You know that you don't have to be in this assembly with other individuals to praise God? Of course not. We can praise God if we're in the middle of Walmart giving thanks and praise unto God. We do not have to be here. Now, should we while we're here? Yes, we better while we're here. But nonetheless, we don't have to be here. We should be, and we better be, praising God always. That's why I say we should have God's Word on our tongue. When we speak, let us speak as oracles of God. Let us say those things which are according to His will, so that we do not become contemptible, so that our sacrifices are not contemptible before God. I'm going to 1 Corinthians, it's chapter 9. I'm going to read verse 27. But I keep under my body, let me restart. But I keep under my body and bring it into subjection, lest that by any means, when I have preached to others, I myself should be a castaway. It is a warning that we keep our bodies in subjection, lest by any means, when I have preached to others, I myself should be a castaway. We hold ourselves accountable. Always accountable. We're accountable. We hold ourselves accountable before anybody else. It is so easy sometimes to look at somebody else's sins. That is an easy thing for us to do. But we have to look at ourselves and say, am I? Because I can tell someone else, you better make sure you're doing what God says. I better make sure I'm doing what God says. I better make sure that my sacrifices first are right before God. Because what would happen if you've seen someone, and it applies to us directly, and that's why I'm trying to make this correlation connection. If you've seen someone over there and they brought a lame sacrifice to God on the altar, looking back, if we were to look back in the Old Testament, they bring a lame sacrifice, and then they come to you and say, hey, you better make sure you bring your best. What would they look like? Why are they telling me that? Why are they looking at me? They brought a lame sacrifice. So we look at ourselves first. We look at ourselves first and we say, am I doing the best that I can for God? Am I doing everything I can? Am I bringing the right sacrifices to God? Am I doing what I should? If we are, if we're doing what we should, and that is part of it, keeping our bodies in subjection. We can't just flaunt ourselves like the world. We keep our bodies in subjection so that we can bring the right sacrifice. If we are walking about in this world, if we're walking about in this world and we are making sure that our bodies are in subjection in this world, then we can show others as well. They should see an example in us. First and foremost, they should see an example in us. They should see how we act, how we dress, how we speak, so they can follow that as well. We are an example, and we're supposed to be an example. Our sacrifices are supposed to be an example. God looks at us first. He says, look at His children. Are they a light? Look at His children. Jesus was an example to us. Look at Him. That's our example, not what we see in this world. If you turn over with me to Romans chapter 12, Romans chapter 12, verse 1, it says, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. It is necessary to bring our bodies into being a living sacrifice. We have to be holy and acceptable unto God. And notice it says, which is your reasonable service. It is not unreasonable. It is very reasonable that if we think Jesus gave His body, that His body was broken for us, you think about that sacrifice for us. Did God give us second best when He sent His Son? No, He gave us the best. The best sacrifice that we can have. Yet, would we turn around? Would we turn around and say, I'm not going to do my best? I received the best, but am I going to do my best? Well, we should. We should want to do our best. Our best is to God. Not second best, but the best. If you turn over with me to Hebrews chapter 12, I want to read there for just a second. Maybe a little slower. I'm used to turning to the scriptures with my left hand instead of my right hand. But Hebrews chapter 12, in verse 1, wherefore seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witness, let us lay aside every weight, and the sin which does so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher, who for the joy that was set before Him endured the cross, despised the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. That is such a beautiful thing to see. That we see where Christ is. We know what a wonderful sacrifice He gave for us. How can we possibly think that we would give second best knowing what He has done for us? Our brother, our King. How wonderful it is that we can say that. You know, not everybody can say that. The people of this world, they can't say that. They can say they love God, but in their actions it doesn't show it. They can say that they have a relationship with God, but if they're not a Christian, they don't have that relationship. When we say we have a relationship with God, we better look and make sure, is it according to the Scriptures? There's people in this world that say, I'm spiritual. No, you're into spiritual wickedness, but you're not spiritual. In Romans chapter 8 and verse 6, for to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace. Spiritually minded, not carnally minded. Not minding the carnal things. Not having a physical only mindset. That's what carnality is. Looking only unto the things of this world, rather unto the things of heaven. If our mind is on heaven, we're going to be concerned with the things of heaven. We're going to be concerned with what God thinks, not what man thinks. If I were to only be concerned with what man thinks, do you know what I would have to do? I'd have to think, what is everyone like? You know what I have to do when I think about carnally? What is God like? It's what all of us do. What is God like? We don't worry about man's opinion on scriptural things because it always changes anyway. In Matthew chapter 5, if you want to turn with me there for just a second, Matthew chapter 5, in verse 29, and if thy right eye offend thee, pluck it out, and cast it from thee, for it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast into hell. And if thy right hand offend thee, cut it off, and cast it from thee, for it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not thy whole body should be cast into hell. If there's something that comes before you and God, put it away. Put it away. Whatever it is. There's individuals And unassuming, not realizing sometimes there's people that you will meet in different places, and they will hand things to you as a gift. Now think about this. They will hand something to you as a gift and say, here, I want you to have this. Be careful, because it could be a satanic thing. You might not realize it. You might not know it at the time. You might think somebody's just being nice, but not everything somebody gives you is for your benefit. We have to watch. So if someone should give us something that's satanic, doesn't matter what it may be, what it's for, rather, throw it away. If someone were to hand you, and this is an extreme example, if someone were to hand you a pornographic, I would say DVD, what would you do with that? Well, you would automatically, typically people say they'd burn it and throw it on the trash. What would you do if someone handed you something, but it was just kind of bad? I'm not saying pornography as in the typical thought of it. I'm talking about something that's a little bit bad. Throw it away. Throw it away. If it's a little bit bad, it's still bad. Throw it away. Don't keep it. Just because someone gives you something doesn't mean that it's for your benefit. It could be for your detriment. It could be a witch. You could meet someone in the store. You could meet someone that you think is such a nice person, but they're into satanic rituals. I was talking with a lady just yesterday, and she was talking about how that an individual was talking with her, and what they were talking about was satanic. And immediately when she started telling me these things, I told her to warn her that person is a witch. What they're into is witchcraft. Some things people tell you that seem so nice, but it's witchcraft. We have to watch spiritual warfare. Have to make sure we're staying right before God. If you turn with me, this is the last set of verses I want to read on this topic this morning. It's in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 9. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying and wonders, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they received not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this cause God shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie. If you think that for a second God doesn't know your heart, doesn't know what you're involved in, doesn't know if you're giving your best, doesn't know how that you're acting, interacting, or what you're doing, you're wrong. He does. And we have to watch. Because we don't want to be one of those individuals that believe a lie, that believe a strong delusion. Those things sometimes look so appealing. I'll warn you of that. They look so appealing sometimes. They look so nice that they would deceive us if we didn't know the truth, if we didn't have God's Word to guide us. They look nice. They sound nice. It could be our friend at work. But we are supposed to be a light. We are supposed to study God's Word. We're supposed to know. We're supposed to give the right sacrifices. Because even if it seems nice, even if it seems like something we would like, even if it seems like something that is so delectable, if it's not right before God, we don't do it. Now I'll give you just one more example. If we think about going back to those sacrifices that they would give, those animal sacrifices that some would give, how easy would it be for someone to go to an individual that has all these flocks and say, they're just going to sacrifice that animal. Your friend's talking to you. They're just going to sacrifice that animal. Why would you want to take your best? They're just going to sacrifice it. What difference would it make? It makes all the difference in the world to take the right sacrifice, to do what is right before God. It makes all the difference in the world. It may be the same steps, but it's wrong. Outwardly, it was the same steps, but the whole intent behind it, the entire purpose of it was complete wrong, and God is not accepting that. We have to watch and be careful. We have to watch and be careful. We have to watch and make sure that we're following God and giving the right sacrifices, not the wrong ones. If there's anyone that's not a Christian, I want to read these verses for you. My hope as we are Christians, as we see these scriptures, that we would take these to those that are lost. It says in these scriptures, and remember these things, and it's important to point this out to people, these are not our words, these come from God. That's where the authority comes from God, not us. In Romans 10:17, it says, "So then faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of God." Hebrews 11:6, "But without faith it is impossible to please him, for he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he's a rewarder of them that diligently seek him." Luke 13:3, "I tell you, nay, but except ye repent, ye shall all likewise perish." Romans 10:10, "For with the heart man believeth unto righteousness, and with the mouth confession is made unto salvation." Mark 16:16, "He that believeth and is baptized shall be saved, but he that believeth not shall be damned." The right sacrifices, the right things that we should do are all within God's Word. We're all without excuse. You know, sometimes people say, "Well, I just don't know." Have you read? Have you prayed for wisdom? Have you read His Word? We can know. We know how to serve God faithfully. He's written it down for us. He's told us what to do. And it's up to us if we obey it, if we decide if we want to follow God faithfully. Thank you for your time as we come together and sing and select this song.